last but certainly not least, in the NFC North is the Detroit Lions, who are really building something here. With Dan Campbell as their head coach, they've actually done quite well for themselves and have a lot of talent to build with and a good amount of draft picks to get even more talent. I have a lot of faith in this team, so let's get into it and see what they can do to utilize the talent and great coaching they have to actually make something in a year where their division is potentially the weakest it's been in a long time. What's up, guys? I'm Tyler Coker, and I'm your host for today's episode of Today with Tyler. I hope you enjoy. As per usual, we'll start with their free agents, although they aren't as crucial as some other teams have. Their key free agents are Josh Reynolds, the wide receiver, and Khalif Raymond, the wide receiver. That's it, at least for key free agents. So, with so little free agent movement, they're going to have a lot of money to sign players, they're going to have a lot of draft picks to draft players, and they aren't going to have to worry about losing any of their important players. Around their offense, Jared Goff isn't the answer, but he isn't the worst quarterback for the situation either. He should definitely be used as a bridge quarterback to find a young guy, potentially someone like Malik Willis if he falls. And hopefully they can use one of their picks to draft a quarterback and be able to, get someone who's going to be able to be the head of the franchise for much longer than Jared Goff ever could be. They definitely could use some wide receivers since, aside from Amon-Ra St. Brown, who had a great end of the year and proved me right in my fantasy and kind of helped win the league for me, they really don't have much talent. Josh Reynolds was okay, Khalif Raymond was okay for a game or two, but in the end, they need somebody who's going to be able to go out and produce consistently. And while Amon-Ra St. Brown was that at the end of the year, it shouldn't all rely on a second-year player, and they should definitely get more talent behind him, especially with this just deep of a draft class. They should absolutely be looking for a wide receiver. Added on, they do have a really good tight end, especially since TJ Hawkinson is a monster when he's utilized right. The Lions boast a consistent, reliable tight end, which is perfect for a young quarterback that they hopefully will be drafting this year. And their run game is what made them a surprise with their record. DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams made for a killer running back duo, and Craig Reynolds more than earned his way into the rotation as well. He did extremely well in their absences. Part of the reason they have such an optimistic outlook in the future is their offensive line as well. PFF ranked 13, the line's really solid. Tackles Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell both had really good seasons, and Sewell has even more room to improve as he gets older and more veteran in the NFL. Center Frank Ragnow is the best man on the line, and played as a rock in the middle. They could use some improvement from their guards in Jonah Jackson and Halapulivati Vaitai for the optimal offensive line, but in the end, they have a good O-line to work around and definitely will protect a young quarterback. Going on to their defense, that's where their woes really begin. Their rushing defense was one of the worst in the entire NFL, and that's due to poor play from the linebackers and the defensive line. Starting with the D-line, ends Michael Brockers and Nick Williams, they weren't even remotely passable this year. They weren't helped by nose tackle Aleem McNeil either, who also struggled greatly. The only passable season from the linebacker core behind them was from Romeo Okwara, who was only decent but looked like a shining star compared to the rest of these linebackers. Trey Flowers and Jalen Reeves-Maybin both had terrible seasons, and Alex Anzalone was notably bad even compared to those terrible seasons before him. They desperately need a presence in the box, and Kayvon Thibodeau is going to look great in that Detroit uniform. Moving on to their secondary, we unfortunately missed another season from Jeff Okudah due to injury, but they struggled with injury all throughout the secondary. But when they had health on their side, they still weren't perfect. Cornerback Amani Oruwari had a poor season before landing on the IR, and safeties Dean Marlowe and Tracy Walker III were okay at best. They could use some secondary presence, but in the end, they can't even focus on that until they get their box to look significantly better. Their top 5 positional needs to me are edge rusher, linebacker, quarterback, defensive tackle, and strong safety, and they're in the position to address those needs. An ideal draft might go something along the lines of Kayvon Thibodeau in the number 2 overall pick. I think that's a great fit. I've explained it before, but I'll explain it again. Kayvon Thibodeau has sky-high potential, and despite the NFL draft media saying differently, is definitely the edge one in this class, and nobody should even be thought of ahead of him, minus a different position like Evan Neal. Kayvon Thibodeau would be a perfect fit for them because the Lions aren't ready to compete now. They'll be ready to compete when Thibodeau is finally matured and been able to take all of that sky-high potential and make it into something. Their 32nd pick, I'm taking a quarterback. I'd like to see him take someone along the lines of either Matt Corral or Sam Howell, depending on how the board lays out and how much they want to invest in that quarterback, because both of them are very, very good quarterbacks and might fall solely due to nobody really wanting a quarterback this year from the draft. In the second, I'm taking Chad Muma, the Wyoming linebacker. In the third, Leon O'Neal, the strong safety out of Texas A&M, and wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson from Kentucky. So they are definitely in the position with all those draft picks to take advantage of all these weaknesses and make them strengths. And so don't be surprised when the Lions are pretty good this year and definitely will outperform the Chicago Bears. Thank you for listening to the NFC North. I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for the last two divisions of the entire NFL breakdown before we've gone through them all and we can focus solely on the draft. Thank you.